all questions are sensible questions, so it doesn't matter what you're asking for. So I'll, without further ado, I'll hand over to Sam again, and yeah.
Okay, great stuff, guys. Thanks, Steve. So yeah, good to be back, guys. We're going to go into a bit more performance nutrition today. So we're going to give you some take-homes, hopefully, in regards to how to adjust your nutrition in and around training, maybe rest days, and games as well. Okay, so that's the goal of tonight. So obviously we went through the basics last time, but tonight the main issue is trying to get you to understand the importance of nutrients, how they affect energy requirements, the calories and micronutrients we need in order to fulfill your potential with the workout, the exercise, the game, or the tournament. Obviously, we want to consider as well what we spoke about last week with energy balance and making sure we're not consuming too many calories and we're not laying down too much tissue in terms of fat gain. That's not what we want. We know the fat isn't tissue that's probably going to help your performance unless you're a sumo wrestler. Okay, you want to make sure you're very lean, which is also important. But we also need to get a balance right between energy demands, hydration demands, and we need to understand the nutrition isn't a one-fits-all approach. Okay, so it's very individualized, and that's what we're going to try and teach you tonight. But also go home with some take-homes in terms of understanding how you should maybe or could maybe improve your nutrition for your sport. So, like I said, nutrition varies. Let me see if I can get rid of that, actually. Nutrition varies between sports, within sports, between training and between environments. So even within football, it's going to be different. A goalkeeper's demands are going to be different to a centre forward's. A wing back these days are probably going to do a lot more running and need more energy for a game than maybe a centre back. Okay, so even within football, the demands are going to be different. USA '94, for those of you, none of you are probably old enough to remember that, but it was absolutely boiling. So again, the energy demands, nutrition demands placed on those players is going to be a lot different to footballers playing in Russia at the moment, or even in the UK at the moment. I think it was -5 this morning. Okay, so here we go. There's your sumo wrestler. There's your female gymnast. Both of them have exactly the same percentages in terms of the breakdown of their nutrition. Okay, so they all have between 45 and 55% intake of carbohydrates. 10 to 15% of that intake comes from protein, and then 25 to 35% comes from fat. Okay, but you can see that the sumo wrestler takes in as much as 15,000 calories a day, and the female gymnast takes in around 2,500 calories a day. So as a footballer, these percentages are going to work pretty well for you. Okay, a high percentage of your diet should come from carbohydrates, 10 to 15% from protein, and then 25 to 35% of the calories from fats. So these are really good all-round macronutrients that work for all athletes, really. But the danger you have if you track your calories on MyFitnessPal is that's just going to give you a pie chart. The pie charts for these two athletes are going to look exactly the same. But as you can see, the calorific demands are totally different. Okay, so the sumo wrestler is going to be eating a lot more food volume than the gymnast. Okay, so these are good percentages to work towards for most of you. But some of you, maybe 16, 17, you're going to maybe need more calories than the younger lads that are on the call tonight. Okay, so tonight's talk's mainly about carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are your main source of energy. Okay, they're fantastic. They're also great for preventing protein wastage. So if you're on a higher carb diet, you might not need as much protein. So that's also important as well. But the main thing we're going to talk about tonight is the glycemic index and how carbs can help fuel performance, okay? And where to put different types of carbohydrates. So glycemic index is simply a tool designed to rank the carbohydrate effect on blood sugar, okay? So high sugar foods will have a high glycemic index, low sugar carbohydrates will have a low glycemic index, okay? And the benefit of that is they're going to give you energy quicker. So there's going to be times to have things. Now, I get asked all the time, and I want to make sure you all understand that there's no such thing as a good food and a bad food, okay? A plain bagel could be great for you for breakfast one morning. It's probably not going to be a great thing to have half-time, all right? Baked beans on toast is a staple amongst footballers. Again, it's great to have maybe in the morning. You wouldn't want to eat that half-time, okay? So when people say food's good or food's good, are they bad? In what context? When are we having it? What is the situation? What's the story behind when you're going to have the food? All right. So that's important to recommend. There's no such thing as a good food and a bad food. Is a good time and a bad time to potentially have foods, or a better time and a worse time. And that's what we're going to try and teach you tonight, this understanding. So a bagel has a glycemic index of 74. So it's quite high. Okay. It's basically a donut without the sugar. Baked beans have a lower glycemic index. So they're going to give you energy more slowly. Dates, dried fruit, very, very high in sugar, instant energy. Okay, all bran, very high in fiber. Okay, it's going to give you a slow release of energy. So this glycemic index is good. It's very useful to understand and know, because the higher glycemic index foods like dates might be good during very close to a game or halftime, or even during a game. Whereas the lower glycemic index foods like the beans are good to have maybe during the week if you're building up to a game. All right. So that's something just to think about. So pre-event, we're going to go low glycemic index. Potatoes are great. All right. Okay. Vegetables are great. Fruit are great. Not so much dried fruit. I'm talking about fresh fruit, because dried fruit has a lot of the fiber removed. Okay. And it's very high in sugar. But fresh fruit, apples, bananas are perfect. So these foods are very good to have anytime. All right. They're low glycemic index. They release energy slowly. Mid-event or mid-workout, more moderate GI foods are better. And then post-workout, you want very high glycemic index carbohydrates to help you recover and replenish all that energy as fast as possible. So don't worry, we're going to go into this now in more depth. So let's talk about carbs. Let's just go back a little bit. We spoke about 45 to 55% of the macronutrients is good for athletes. How many carbs per day should athletes have? Okay, so the International Olympic Committee say between 5 and 12 grams of carbs a day. So between 5 and 12 grams of carbs per kilogram a day. Now that's a big ratio. The International Society of Sports Nutrition says between 5 and 10 grams of carbs per kilogram a day. And the American College of Sports Medicine says between 6 and 10 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight a day. So you can see that they're all quite similar. They all kind of agree of where we should be as an athlete in terms of your carbohydrate consumption per day. Okay, and this has all been proven by research. But this is based on sports. Okay, some sports are different to others. Not all sports are the same. So it's too generalized. You know, between 5 grams and 12 grams. That's a huge difference. Okay, here is such a big variance. So it's not something that we can really do anything with. But that's what the journals say. So you know, this is how we can break it down a little bit more. Skill-based sports, okay, low intensity. You can have a lower energy requirement, between 3 and 5 grams of carbohydrates a day. And I'm going to give you examples later, guys, so don't get confused. 1 hour of training per day, obviously your energy demands go up, so you're going to take on a few more grams of carbohydrates. If you're doing an endurance program that's high intensity, again, your carbohydrate requirements go up again. And very long duration activities, you're going to require even more. So guys, think about it like this. The more you train, the more energy you need. Okay, carbohydrates are just like the petrol you put in your car. If you're going to just drive around the block, you don't need much petrol. Put 5 pounds of petrol in and you'll be fine. If you're going to drive to the top of the UK or drive to Edinburgh or Glasgow and back from your house right now, you're going to need a full tank of petrol. So that's an easy way to look at carbohydrates. If you're going to go and train and you've got a 1 hour workout, some carbohydrates before is going to be sufficient. If you're playing in a football tournament and you might have 5 or 6 or 7 games a day, then you might need, or you certainly will need more energy. And ideally that's going to come from carbohydrates. So my personal recommendations for football. Okay, this is something that I've used and utilized over the years with some of my athletes. If you're on a rest day, guess what? You don't need as much energy. So if you're 60 kilos, okay, I've done an example here for you, between 3 grams and 5 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight. So a 60 kilogram player will have between 180 and 240 grams of carbohydrates, okay? On a 1 hour training day, so say you're just training for 1 hour, your carbohydrate requirements go up. You might have between 240 and 300 grams a day. If you're the day before game, maybe you're not training, but you've got a big exertion tomorrow, you're going to play 90 minutes, maybe it's warm, you're playing top of the league, you know you're going to be chasing the winger up and down for 90 minutes, then your energy requirements could be a little bit higher to make sure you've carb loaded, okay? So you've got lots of energy for the game tomorrow. Then on the game day, that's when you're probably going to have most of your carbs, all right? And we'll talk to you about how to get those carbs in especially if you're training, you've got a game maybe early in the morning or mid-afternoon. So do we need to load carbs? I know I just mentioned it there, but it's one of the oldest nutrient timing practices. So loading carbs basically means a week before the event or 5 days before, you start eating more and more carbohydrates, so your muscles store them in the thought process that more stored energy will increase performance. Well, it's been shown to increase or decrease the time to exhaustion by 20%. So in a way, yeah, carb loading is fantastic, but it's considered only effective in events lasting longer than 90 minutes. So football lasts exactly 90 minutes, all right? Maybe 100 minutes these days with VAR, all right? But so the research, what do we think? Does it work? Does it not work? Okay, I personally think that it has a positive effect, but because it isn't a long duration sport, we have 45 minutes, we have an interval where we have the potential to take on more carbohydrates in the form of maybe some fast carb sweets, things like that, maybe some Lucozade, then it isn't as important in football as it is in other sports. So it's not something we need to worry about unless you've got a World Cup final and you've got 7 days to prepare. It isn't something I would do. Just having some more carbs, a little bit more the day before a game, making sure you're fully fueled with a good carb-based breakfast the day of the game, you should be good to go. All right? So we haven't got to load up carbs like a marathon runner has. Okay, so nutrition before the event. The best thing you can do is eat a moderate to high amount of carbs every day for football. Okay, you're young lads, you're growing. Okay, so make sure you're eating good carbohydrates every single day and on the lower glycemic index. Okay, so I'm not talking about Haribos and Jaffa cakes and chocolate bars. I'm talking about things like fruits, vegetables, pasta, maybe whole wheat bread, oats, okay, beans, quinoa, lentils, pulses, this kind of things. So try and get a lot of your carbs in the build up to games from lower glycemic index sources. Of course, you can still have a chocolate bar, all right? You can still eat a bit of chocolate now and again. We're not training for Mr. Olympia. You're not Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you haven't got to get down to ridiculous levels of low body fat. So still enjoy your food. You can have some fun food, but a lot of your carbohydrates should be coming from more lower GI foods in the build up to a game. So on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before a game, try and make sure you're having more lower glycemic index carbohydrates. All right. Now hydration. Okay, we're going to go back to carbs in a minute, but let's talk to you about hydration before the game as well. Hydration is important. Okay, you should have between 5 to 7 milliliters per kilogram of body weight. Or a really simple way to explain: 1 liter of water per 25 kilos of body weight. So for every 3 stone that you weigh, have 1 liter of water per day. All right, and it's very important before training or before a game that your urine, your wee, is clear. Okay, if your urine isn't clear and it's quite a bit smelly, guys, okay, that's, I think, a fair assumption. If it is, then you need to drink more water. Okay, it's as simple as that. Now make sure that your wee is clear 2 hours before the event. If it's not clear 2 hours before the event, you're going to have a very hard time getting hydrated by the time of the event. Okay, so a little test to do 2 hours before. Make sure your water is clear. If it's not, then you want to start drinking water a little bit more aggressively in the build up to the game. Now, people think, the more water you drink, the better. This is untrue. Okay, hyperhydration is a thing. So you can be, you can have too much water in your system. It's a state of increased water retention, and it's suggested to avoid. Okay, individuals with greater capacity to tolerate fluid losses during exercise. So don't over drink water. All right, just make sure your urine is clear, and that's enough. Okay, there's an unnecessary risk of hypoatremia associated with drinking too much water. So that basically means you'll go to the toilet too much, and then your salt sodium balance in the body will get affected, and it'll actually have a detrimental effect on performance. Okay, so that's important, not to drink too much water. Okay, so if you just sip it slowly, and you should be good to go, making sure your water is clear. Now, do we need to take on food during sport? Okay, so if your training is less than 45 minutes, 100% not needed. Don't need anything. You can just have water, guys, okay? If you're training for between 45 and 75 minutes, so maybe you've got an academy session or things like that, taking on some calories would be useful. I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about maybe utilizing a sports drink that can provide easily some nice, easy carbohydrates. So a Lucozade or something like that would be useful if you're training for, an hour or more, basically, or over 45 minutes. Okay. Endurance events and stop-start sports like football that are done competitively. So, think of a game between 1 and 2.5 hours. You want to be taking in between 30 and 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. So this is your football match, and you're going to take this on ideally around halftime. Okay, so endurance and events at a stop-start. Football involves a lot of explosive sprints, and we know that when you're working explosively, fast, those muscle fibers, they're going to contract a lot better if you've got carbohydrates in the system, okay? But liquid carbohydrates are fine here, okay? And then ultra endurance athletes, if any of you ever do a triathlon, you want to be taking on more carbohydrates, okay? So just think of the petrol in a car. Now, this graph is really, really interesting, okay? It shows the effect of taking on carbohydrates. So the red and the yellow you can see here is dropping, okay? It's dropping, okay? And this is the sugar in the blood. And as soon as you have some food, look at it, boosh, it goes back up, okay? Which means that you can perform at a higher level, okay? So yeah, performance starts dropping as glucose goes down. You have a refeed, bang, and performance can start going up. So that's very interesting. But as you can see, it's been 135 minutes in, okay? But I guarantee you the same thing would happen at 90 minutes. If you put the refeed in there, this graph would go back up. So if you play in sport or football and the game goes to extra time or, things like that, then you definitely need to be taking on more carbohydrates. Now, halftime protocol. This is something I wish I learned years ago. I played at a good level. I played over 160 games for Newport County. Played, a good standing in Wales. I even went on trial with Fulham and played up front with Louis Saha when I was 17 many years ago. I guess some of you are too young to remember him, but he was a great player. Played for Man United as well. And this wasn't even taught to me then, okay? But it was coming in a little bit because the manager just before was John Tigana, who was French, and he was starting to do some of these things, okay? But it wasn't popular back then. I wish I knew this when I was your age. But a simple halftime protocol. So rehydrate, okay, with a 50-50 split. So have a bottle of water and have an isotonic drink. Now, I know you don't know what isotonic means. So we're going to explain that in a few slides' time. But isotonic is the best thing to have with water, okay? So 50-50 split. Have a small handful of moderate to high glycemic index carbs. So this could be things like a Jaffa cake. It could be a Rice Krispie bar. It could be maybe a little bit of dark chocolate. Okay, it could be a Snickers bar or a bite of a Snickers, a banana. Okay, old school footballers used to have oranges. Okay, things like that would be good. Just a small amount, nothing crazy. And then focus on your breathing. Nasal breathing is a big thing. It's coming in now to lots of teams. I know Andreas Iniesta, he went to Japan to play, and he was very surprised at the positive effect meditation and nasal breathing had during the soccer practice. And he said that he's actually recommended it to Barcelona now, okay? Because nasal breathing is a great way to get oxygen into the muscles. Oxygen is energy, okay? So especially when you wear shin pads and you tie your shin pads up with tape, a lot of the muscles are actually being starved of oxygen. So nasal breathing will actually help get oxygen to those muscles, which is important, because without oxygen, your muscles will die. Okay, so if you hold your hand here like this, even if it's just restricted, in a matter of minutes, or depends how hard I hold, my fingers are going to start going numb. If they start going numb, they're not going to be able to contract as hard, produce as much force. And that's going to then have a detrimental effect on performance and coordination. Another big thing, we used to do this in Newport before the game, even 15 years ago. Weigh yourself before the game and then weigh yourself half time. Okay, how much water have you lost in terms of fluid? That's going to allow you then to dictate how much water you need to take on half time. Now, I used to lose around 3 or 4 kilos in a game when I was playing on the wing back in the day. So weighing myself half time just allowed me to see whether or not I was, taking on enough fluid, basically. But you're always going to lose water. That's fine. It doesn't matter if you lose a little bit half time and then a bit more. The average person will lose around 2 kilos, but it's important after the game that you get that up to speed as quick as we can. Okay. Now, sports drinks. These are really interesting. is a constant battle. Do we need energy or do we need fluid? Energy or fluid, okay? These are the two things you wanna take on board. And some are actually designed to give you energy, and some are designed to give you fluid. Obviously, water is just going to give you just fluid, okay? Whereas the isotonic drinks are going to give you more carbohydrates and energy, okay? So I would never drink an isotonic drink away from sport. I wouldn't do that. Keep the Lucozades, the Powerades for sport. You see a lot of kids drinking Lucozade and Powerade in school, and it's not really the right time for it. You shouldn't really be using it in that. It's not going to be doing you the world of good. So are they bad for you? No, they're great for you in and around a game, but you don't want to be drinking them, any time of the day. So they're going to give you more energy, which is great because that's what you want for your sport. Okay, now there's 3 types of drinks. Hypotonic, which is more sports water. So Lucozade do a hypotonic drink. It's basically a water with less than 4 grams of carbs per 100 milliliters. Okay. Hypertonic drinks. Okay. These are absorbed more slowly. All right. And they have more than 8 grams, per 100 milliliters. And isotonics are your typical sports drink. They have a similar osmolality to the blood. Okay. So it's an ideal compromise. So I normally always go with an isotonic drink if you're drinking them in and around sport, because the contents of the drink have a similar blood glucose level to your actual blood. So it's going to get into your bloodstream nice and quick. Now, don't take that as gospel though. If you're playing football in Dubai, okay, sweat loss is going to be higher than energy loss. Okay, you're going to be sweating, just warming up. So that's where you might take on more fluids, and that's where the hypotonic sports water might be a bit better. Now, if you're playing in the middle of Russia, like we spoke about, or the UK, you might sweat less because your body is always cold. And that's where maybe, you can just take on a more energy-based drink. But to be honest with you, I find that the Lucozade does the job perfectly. So normally go with the isotonic. But hypertonic could be used in freezing cold conditions. Hypotonic could be used in warm conditions. All right. So really simple. Now, how many carbs do we have after the game? Okay, so as soon as the game finishes, this is where recovery starts. Now, I like the international, this one here, okay, and they say to have a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein after training, okay, which is great. And we're going to give you some examples of this now, okay, but a high dosage of 1.5 grams per kilo, all right, or 8 to 10 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight on the day within 30 minutes of training. So after the game, the ISSN say you've got a 30-minute window in order to maximize recovery. Okay, the International Olympic Committee, they say that there's no 30-minute window. You've got up to 4 hours to get the carbs in you. Okay, and the ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine, say that you want to be taking on carbs within 30 minutes of training. So we got 2 of them that say 30 minutes and 1 of them that says 4 hours in terms of how many carbs you have after the activity. Okay, so what do I think? Okay, so here's what I would do. Okay, post-workout, obviously the goal is to maximize glycogen resynthesis. This basically means we want to get the energy back in our muscles as fast as possible. Okay, now it's important we get this back in within 24 hours. Okay, it's very, very important because you want that recovery process to start to make sure you're ready for the next game. And there's been lots of studies about muscle soreness. And if you actually, achieve this target of replenishing all the energy in your muscles, muscle soreness will be a lot less. Okay, so we've got a window of opportunity after the game, and that's why 2 of them say 30 minutes. But, it's not 30 minutes, then you get to 31 and you're not going to recover. Obviously, it's on a continuum. So, it depends, guys, all right? But the timing may be advantageous, but it really does depend on the training demands. But I'm going to give you some little take-homes now in terms of what I would do. We give you some really good examples. So imagine this, guys. This is the best take home for you tonight. Okay, imagine you haven't got a training session. You haven't got a game. This is what your diet could look like. Now, every day is going to look similar, but I want you to see how I've changed it. Okay, so breakfast. It could be some porridge oats made with some skim milk, a nice big handful of blueberries, some 0% Greek yogurt, and a small handful of almonds. So we got some carbohydrates in the oats. We got some protein and some more carbs in the skim milk, as well as a little bit of calcium and other nutrients that are found in skim milk. Blueberries, we've got some more carbs, a bit of fiber, lots of antioxidants, vitamins and minerals. We've got 0% Greek yogurt, so very low fat, more carbohydrates and lots of protein in Greek yogurt. And then we've got a small handful of almonds to give us, some good healthy fats, maybe some omega-3 fats as well, some selenium and a bit more fiber. And there's loads and loads of vitamins and minerals in almonds. So that's a nice balanced breakfast. We've got our carbohydrates, we've got some fruit, we've got some fiber, we've got our protein and a small amount of fat. Your first snack, then you have a piece of fruit, okay, some more carbohydrates. Remember, these are low glycemic carbohydrates. They're going to give you energy slowly, just like the oats will and the Greek yogurt, and a handful of nuts. So we're going with a bit more fats with the meal, okay? We know that fats are very important for our health, okay, but we know they're not the best form of energy, okay? But we don't need lots of energy today because we're on a rest day. Lunch, 2 chicken breasts, nice big portion of protein, some brown rice, which is very low glycemic index, and some vegetables, okay? Snack, we'll repeat the first snack, another piece of fruit, eat the rainbow, it's very good for the immune system, and another handful of nuts. Why not alternate the nuts? So you've got almonds in the morning, why not have some pistachios here or some Brazil nuts here, okay? Really, really simple. Or some almond butter, some cashew butter, maybe some peanut butter. Evening meal, salmon fillets, potatoes and vegetables. So more of a high fat protein in the evening, water, nice and consistent, like we said. So that's the rest day. So how could we change this easy to set up diet on a training day? Okay, great. So we can still have the oats made with skim milk, blueberries, Greek yogurt, small handful of almonds. Maybe we'll add a drizzle of honey. So we're adding a bit more energy, maybe some faster carbs because we got some training in the day. Our snack here will go with 2 pieces of fruit. So more carbohydrates. The snack yesterday, we had 1 piece of fruit and some nuts. Well, today we're going to go with 2 pieces of fruit. So we've already lowered the fat content of the snack, increased the carb content. Lunch is the same. We've gone for chicken breast, rice and vegetables. But yesterday we had brown rice, which is lower glycemic index. Today we've gone with white rice. So it's going to give you energy a little bit more quickly. And because we're training today, our energy demands go up. Remember the fuel in the car. We're going to drive the car further today. We need more petrol. All right. We're going to increase the vegetable intake by 20%. Okay. So more food. All right. Or more carbohydrates. The snack again is 2 pieces of fruit. Yesterday we had 1 piece of fruit and nuts, but today we're training. So you have 2 pieces of fruit, more carbs. And the evening meal, salmon fillets, potatoes and vegetables. It's the same evening meal. We're going to have more carbohydrates in this meal. So today's setup, you've got more carbohydrates. Okay, you're having more fruit, you're having a bit of honey, and you're having larger portions of rice and potatoes. But the day setup is really similar. Okay, we haven't got to, change things drastically. It's just eating according to the demands. Now, the day before game, how do we change things again? Look, we're going to have the same breakfast as we did the day before. Oats with skim milk, blueberries, Greek yogurt, drizzle of honey. We're going to add in a banana. Okay, so a bit more food, a bit more fuel. And bananas are great because they're high in potassium and they're high in magnesium. Okay, they're both electrolytes proven to help your muscles contract. Okay, so most people that get cramp isn't due to not being fit. It's not due to being dehydrated, although it can be. Normally it's due to an imbalance of electrolytes inside the muscle. So adding a banana in there would make sense. The snack now is becoming even higher carb. So we've lost a piece of fruit. We're going to go with some malt loaf, which is like serene. It's like a fruit loaf. And then have some fruit with it. Okay, so a higher carb snack. Lunch is the same. Chicken breast, white rice and vegetables. We're having 20% more rice than we did yesterday. 40% more rice than a rest day. So more energy. This is going to get stored in our muscles, ready for the big game tomorrow. The snack, again, we're going to go with malt loaf and fruit. Okay, so your muscles by this point, they're going to be pumped. They're going to be full of energy, ready for the game the next day. And the evening meal then, chicken, potatoes, vegetables. And again, you're taking on more rice. So when it comes to that game tomorrow, you now know that your muscles are absolutely full of energy. That tank of petrol is full. You're ready to run like crazy for 90 minutes. And then the game day. I'm a big fan of keeping breakfast similar most days. I've trained so many runners, and one guy I trained, he was quite funny actually. He didn't want to pay for me to help him, and obviously, this is my job. I don't do it for free. But he wanted, he got told basically to have a different breakfast the day of the event, or have this breakfast, it'll make you run faster. And he was used to having the same thing. He woke up the morning of the London Marathon, he had a different breakfast, and 5 miles in, he had stomach cramps, he had to use the toilet, and literally, he got a bit of an accident. Let's just say that. All right. So what I'm trying to say, guys, is get used to having breakfast. Don't change things for the sake of it. Have maybe 2 or 3 different breakfasts that you rotate. You're not going to eat the same thing every day. You can alternate the blueberries to raspberries to strawberries, things like that. You can have different types of honey, maybe different types of fruit, but try and keep the main things the same, because your digestive system will then get used to using that for energy. Okay, but here, 5 hours before the game, what are we doing now? Yeah, same as yesterday, banana, nice big drizzle of honey. We're ready. 5 hours before the game, give your body a chance to digest it. 2 hours before the game, malt loaf, add some jam with it, maybe a little bit of dark chocolate, because that's going to be very, very high in sugar, and we don't want to take on too much sugar and have an energy rush. So a bit of dark chocolate will give you a lot of calories. It's also an antioxidant, so that's going to help things. Beetroot juice is known as a vasodilator. It's going to allow your arteries to open up. Cherry juice is a similar thing, so it's very, very good for improving blood flow. And if you're old enough, you can have a cup of coffee, or maybe you like a sugar-free Red Bull or something like that. It depends, up to you. But caffeine does improve performance. It helps concentration. Okay, so maybe adding some form of caffeine in there would be okay. And that's your go-to, guys. That's a really good go-to before the game. I'm not giving you portion sizes here because everyone's different. Someone that's bigger is going to need a larger portion than someone that's smaller. So you need to adjust the oats and the blueberries just based on your energy demands. But that's a really good setup the day of a game. During the game, like I said, have a 50-50 split half time between water and an isotonic drink. If you've sweated a lot and you haven't run a lot, maybe it's because it's so hot, take on slightly more water. If you've been running around like crazy, but maybe it's a cold night, maybe take on more energy with an isotonic drink. Okay, simple carbs at half time. Jaffa cakes are really, really good because they've got around 1 gram of fat per biscuit, which is good because it's going to give you a little bit more of a higher, a little bit more of a slower release of energy. It's still fast, but it's not like too fast. It's not like taking table sugar or anything like that. A banana is great, and a couple of Jaffa cakes would be my choice. Okay, but nothing wrong with a few jelly beans either. But you're going to burn through those jelly beans in 10, 15 minutes. So maybe a combination, but find out what works for you. All right, you need to trial and error, find out exactly what works for you. Now, after the game, it's important to rehydrate to your pre-game weight. So if you've lost 3 kilos in the game, you've got to try and get that 3 kilos back on you, by the end of that day if we can. Okay, so just make sure you're sipping your water, don't guzzle it, try and get your weight back to normal to get our recovery process started. Now, we said is a 30-minute window. The International Olympic Committee said you've got 4 hours. All I would say, guys, don't stress about it. Within an hour of the game, have a 3-to-1 ratio protein shake. Liquid calories are easy to digest. You've just been running around for 90 minutes. All the blood is in your legs, okay? So, we don't want to, there's not a lot of blood in and around the digestive system at this point, okay? So you're very, very stressed. Cortisol is quite high. We find it hard to digest food after the game when our body's been through, a stressful 90 minutes running around. Your heart rate's been high for a long time. Digestion definitely gets impaired. Okay, so having a liquid shake is going to help you. Now, you might play for a team that provides these shakes. Maybe you're getting well looked after. Man United and Man City and all these types of teams, this gets done for you. It gets handed to you after the game. But, when we're young, the onus is on you. You need to make sure after the game you've got some form of 3-to-1 ratio carb to protein shake. And it could be one you make at home. It could be that you buy a fridge milkshake. They're pretty good. They got around 15 to 20 grams of protein and around 60 grams of carbs. So the fridge milkshakes are good. Get one of them down you after a game. And then that's great. You've started the recovery process. You've taken on some fluid. And then you can focus on the next meal then. Getting something in you. And I always like the next meal to be a lean meat because, we want to replenish carbohydrates after training. So fat's going to really slow down the absorption of the carbs. So chicken, turkey, maybe some tuna would be good. and some good carbs. You could have like a tuna pasta. You could have a, maybe a chicken sandwich maybe would be fine. So you got some meat, the chicken's the protein, and the a bit of bread would be the carbs. That's absolutely fine. So you can choose what you want, but like something like a tuna pasta would be great. And then after the game, then look, it's important you relax, have something you've missed all week. You've been really, really good. You won a game. Hopefully you scored a goal or kept a clean sheet. Have a cheat meal, have some fun food. I have a takeaway every Saturday with my girlfriend. I think it's important to have something that you enjoy, So win, lose or draw, have some fun food after the game, whether it is, have a Chinese takeaway, have a pizza. It's important that we keep that balance, guys, okay? And make sure you still enjoy your food. You don't want to be too rigid with it. These are just guidelines. And if you've been running around for 90 minutes, your calorific expenditure has been very, very, very high. You've only had a breakfast really and a snack. You've burned off loads and loads and loads of calories running around. All this food has been burnt off in terms of the energy you've taken in. Don't forget, we're also burning calories just being here. I burn 2,200 calories a day, sat down all day, and then obviously my football and training is on top. So this meal is going to probably do you the world of good. And you probably wake up the next day feeling better because you've been putting more energy in your body, even though the foods might not be, considered so-called healthy. But just have a look at Phelps, the swimmer. Have a look at what he used to eat in a day. And I'll be honest with you, it's absolutely fine because he's like a male shark, basically, the amount of swimming he was doing in a day. And if he tried to get all those calories in with just real healthy, low glycemic index foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, he wouldn't physically be able to get it in. So, on the day that you expend the most energy, which is normally a game day, that's where I'd recommend you to start putting in some fun foods, guys. Okay, so I hope that little demonstration there was useful. It's good to see. Just to recap, away from the game, we want to focus more on low glycemic index carbs. So, far away from table sugar, all right, vegetables, fruits, brown versions of food, brown bread, brown rice, more wholemeal stuff if we can, all right. Maybe having more fats away from the game, things like salmon and mackerel and your healthy, oily fishes. Maybe things like lamb and beef would be better suited away from the game because they do take a bit longer to digest. And then, on the training days, we can have a combination, it's a training day, so you haven't got to be at your optimal best. So maybe one high fat meat and one low fat meat would be good. Have slightly larger portions of food maybe on a training day, but don't go crazy because you're only training for maybe an hour. Then on the day before game, there's a really good opportunity to maybe go with more leaner meat. So go with your chicken, lose the things like salmon, go with turkey, tuna. So go with leaner meats because they're absorbed a lot easier, okay, and they're digested easier as well. So it's not going to put too much strain on your digestive system, and it's going to mean then chicken obviously contains less calories than salmon, so it allows us then to maybe make up the calories that was in the salmon and take on more rice. So we're going to be more energized for the game, all right. And then the day of the game, then we want to stay away really from high fat foods, all right. Most of the meals should be higher on the carb spectrum, carbs from oats, honey, fruit. Snacks should be more carb based. We still want to make sure we get a good little hit of protein in, especially for breakfast. And then after the game, we want to load up on protein if we can, because that's going to help you. Protein synthesis is actually what helps you repair muscle tissue. Okay, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll open up for some questions now. Obviously, if anyone wants any more information, that's the gym I work in. You can follow us on Instagram. I guess none of you kids are on Facebook anymore. I think Instagram is the new thing. I'm not on TikTok, sorry, so you can't follow me on there. But guys, we'll open up for any questions. Let me see if we got any in the chat. Okay, here's the chat. If we had any questions, let's have a little look. Okay, so do you gain weight from water? Okay, great question. Yeah, of course you do. So if I drink this, if I weigh how much water's in here now and I drink it and I weigh myself, yes, you're going to weigh more. But, that doesn't mean that you put on body fat. It doesn't mean you put on muscle. You're just hydrated. Your weight's going to change. Your weight's going to change all day, every day. Everything we do will affect your weight. So I could have a high sodium meal this evening, high in salt, and it'll probably mean I weigh more tomorrow. I could have a really tough workout tonight, and it could mean that I weigh more tomorrow because I'm slightly inflamed. So, you know, I could go to the toilet, have a wee, have a poo, all right, and I'm going to weigh less. So, you know, don't look at your weight as something that's constant. What I would do is, if you're looking to lose weight or gain weight, is wake up, have a wee, weigh, and then take the average measurement over 7 days, and then take the average for week 1 with the average of week 2, and then see how your weight is changing. And that's how I do it with, I train a lot of women that are obsessed with their weight, and they're just focused on weight loss. You just got to remember that weight loss isn't fat loss. It is a difference. So by taking the averages, it'll work. Okay. What's the best weight for a footballer? Okay. It depends. We're all structurally different. So Virgil van Dijk is going to weigh a lot more than Bernardo Silva for Man City. They're both fantastic players, but one of them is built like a fridge. He's huge. His job is to destroy centre forwards, and Bernardo Silva is very quick and agile. So it really does depend on your position. You know, I wouldn't chase a weight. You know, don't think you need to be 80 kilos or 90 kilos. You know, the heaviest I've been playing is like 88 kilos. The lightest I've been is like 80 kilos. So my weight will fluctuate around 8 kilos. And it depends really. I feel good playing centre back or centre forward a bit heavier, so I can, you know, hold the ball up and maybe take a few knocks. But I used to hate it when I was, you know, 88 kilos playing well up front, and then the manager would put me on the wing because that wasn't a really good weight for me when I was playing in space. So you need to find out where you're playing and find out what works for you. Some players will feel better a bit heavier, and others will feel better a bit lighter. I guess it depends how you play the game. If you're a tenacious midfielder, you know, and you like to get your foot in, you might feel better a bit stockier. Whereas if you're a quick, agile winger, then being lighter is probably going to help. So what other breakfast ideas are there? Look, I can send Steve a few recipe books. I think we sent some over last time. We can put them in your chat. You know, oats are good, muesli's good. If you feel good on carbs in the morning, you can potentially make a nice smoothie. Beans on toast is a staple amongst footballers that can work really, really well. Omelets are good if you like eggs. You can have my girlfriend sometimes makes egg muffins. They're quite nice as well. You can have a couple of rounds of toast and a protein shake. Yogurt's good as well. Greek yogurt. Put some fruit in there with some oats or some muesli or a bit of cereal potentially. So yeah, there's a few options for you. Any tips on getting scouted as well? Sorry for the question. No, good. I'm glad you're asking questions, Masimba. Yeah, well, tips for getting scouted. You know, you've got to just make sure that you're consistent. Anyone can have a good game. I think anyone can play well and have a good game, but it's being consistent and making sure you turn up and play well as often as you can. Because I don't think scouts will, you know, pick you up if you have one good game. They're going to be looking at you for 6, 8, 12 weeks. So the most important thing I think is consistency. So just be consistent, and you know, if you're a striker, just make sure you're scoring goals. If you're a winger, make sure you're assisting goals. If you're a defender and a goalkeeper, make sure you're keeping clean sheets. And you know, statistics don't lie. Success leaves clues. If you're doing well, and you're in a team that's playing well and performing well, I'm sure people will start watching you. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions, guys?
Samo, I've got one for you, please, if I may. Yeah. So we talk about glycemic index and things like that on foods.
Yes.
Is there a way? So if I went to a supermarket and I picked up a food, does it tell me the glycemic index on the packaging and things?
It can do. A lot of foods now, they'll use the traffic light system.
Yeah.
So the traffic light system is based on glycemic index. So I believe anything below 33 will be green. Anything from like 33 to 66 is classed as amber. And then anything that is over 66 is normally red. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the red is bad. Like the red could be fantastic just before a game. It just means it's going to give you energy faster. But a lot of these foods now are being labeled with the traffic light system because of obesity. And there's been, you know, there's research that basically shows that when we eat higher sugar foods, we tend to overconsume calories or eat more. So that's how the traffic light system works. But in simple terms, away from a game, have green foods on the traffic light system. Maybe the day before a game, start going green or amber. And then the day of the game, as your snacks, as the game gets closer, start going with the red ones.
Brilliant.
If you have a game at 5:30, would your meal time change? For example, would you still have your breakfast 5 hours before a game? No, because I get really hungry in the morning. So I'd wake up, I'd have my breakfast at a normal time, and then I'd have maybe have a snack that isn't so high glycemic index. Maybe something that's more on the lower scale. Maybe a light lunch. That's chicken, pasta, things like that. And then before the game, then you can still have your your higher glycemic pre-workout meal. I used to hate playing in the evening because when Steve was my manager, Cinderford, I'd be up at 5 a.m. In the gym at 6, and then we'd kick off at 7:30 in Hungerford, and it'd be like, oh my God, you'd have to leave work early, but you've already done a full shift, you've been on your feet all day. So, that's where taking food with you and being prepared is key. And no one understands how hard non-league football is, because you got to work a full shift, make sure you're ready, and then you have to compete against boys that are maybe full time, and maybe not, lying down all day, and they're fueled and they're all rested, and you've already done a full day's work. But that's where your preparation is very important. Okay, if you have a game at 10:30, would your meal time change? Again, similar question to Lee. So you might just have your breakfast. It all depends, really. I like having a good breakfast, and then a snack before I play. So, the league I play in, we have early kickoffs sometimes because some games are still televised on TV. So we had a game last year that was, I think, 12 o'clock. So I'll still get up, have my breakfast, but I might have it just a little bit later. And then I'll have my snack then a few hours before. So you might want to delay breakfast slightly, and just find out what works for you. But I find, 5 hours before a game is perfect for breakfast, and then a snack around 2 hours before works well for me. But you might find that you feel a bit better having it a bit later, or maybe even a bit earlier. Okay, any more questions, guys? Some really good questions there. Well done.
One more from me, Samo, and I don't know if you've got tips or ideas on it, because again, there's lots of parents probably listening to it. So if we're talking about percentage of carbohydrates or a percentage of protein or fats, is there an easier way than having to read every part and label? Is there a simple formula to kind of
so it's so simple. If you download an app called MyFitnessPal, it's a really, really simple app, and it's got a scanning feature on it, so you can scan the barcode of any food you eat and it will input it. So what I would do is, don't worry about getting it perfect. Just get in the habit of actually tracking the foods that you eat. And if you have a banana, you can just type in banana, all right? And it'll, it doesn't matter whether it's an 80-gram banana or a 78-gram. It doesn't matter. You can change the grams to get it more accurate if you want to. Just get in the habit of tracking your calories. And a lot of the people that I train, like when I looked after Rabbi, like he wasn't eating enough protein. He was very inconsistent with his days. Some days he'd have breakfast, other days he wouldn't. Getting that consistency in is going to be very important. And a lot of footballers, when they train and when they play games, they're actually quite depleted, because I think footballers do overtrain. Even on a Friday before a game, you'll do 5-a-sides, and you'll have like a little 5-0 and round robin, shooting practice, things like that. And ideally the day before a game, you should be off your feet, just resting, recovering, and you probably find you perform a little bit better. But I don't know why in football, we tend to, like, some teams train the morning of a game. It's crazy. So use the app called MyFitnessPal.
Perfect.
Really simple. HD. What's that? Okay. Any more questions, guys? Should we do one more? Who's had lots of questions?
I've got one more question, but it's for another day, Samo. About mouth breathing and nasal breathing. I know that's all coming in now. I'm hearing lots about it. So we'll talk about that another day, I think.
So if we're going to do that, all I want you to do, guys, right, is go on to Instagram and follow the Iceman. Is a guy called Wim Hof, I've actually booked a retreat with this guy. All right, at the end of the year, I think I'm having a midlife crisis, Steve. All right, and he takes you on a hike, and you wear nothing but underpants, and it's like -12. All right, but this guy is incredible. He is like he's getting younger every day, as in he just looks incredible for his age. He practices yoga. I do his breathing techniques every morning, so I can now hold my breath for 4 minutes, which is pretty good. The first time I did it, it was like 50 seconds. So, and I did a 5K run yesterday, the second fastest 5K run I've done in 18 months since I've had Strava. And I've only done one run this year. But what I've been doing is the nasal breathing. So when I breathe now, it just feels like I'm taking in much more energy. So follow the guy called Wim Hof, the Iceman. He's got an app on his phone, which is great. I'll open the app to show you now. He does a guided breathing bubble. And all you do...
breathe in. Breathe out.
It sounds silly, but...
breathe in. Breathe out.
So you do 40 breaths and you hold your breath. And my physiological system, my breathing is way better. So follow him. He's got a free app and have a little play with it. And I guarantee you all you'll feel better. It's great for anxiety. It's great for reducing stress. But it gets oxygen into your cells and into your muscles. So yeah.
I hear it's good for sleep and all sorts, Sam.
Yeah, man. I honestly, like, I used to have like 2 or 3 cups of coffee in the morning, but I do that breathing and I feel so like awake. It's brilliant. And a lot of CEOs are doing it now because of the mental clarity it gives you.
Amazing. There's another presentation for us, Sam. We'll think about that one next time.
Okay, mate. Anytime. Yeah. So, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, if anyone's got any questions they didn't answer, give me a follow on Instagram. You can DM me on there, or my personal Instagram is Sam_SOSPT. You can get me on there. I think a few of you messaged me last time, which was fine. More than happy to help.
Amazing, Sam. Right, guys, I'll lead us in. Thank you to Sam. Like we always say about these things, guys, go away with something. These are hugely thought-provoking. Sam's not saying completely give up chocolate or the fun things in life. That's not what he's saying, and that's not realistic, especially when you guys are the ones that are not going to the supermarkets to buy everything. So have a think about it, though. Think what's going into your body, because it will affect your performance in school, in life, in football, everything we do. So thank you very much, Sam. This presentation, guys, I'll send out to everyone via the WhatsApp groups again. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening, Sam. Top man, mate. Thank